BTB listeners, thank you so much for checking out today's episode. Listen, if this episode inspires you, do me a favor, take 5 seconds to shoot me a like and subscribe to the podcast. There are several more exciting guests that are in the pipeline, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued support, and let's keep paying the mission forward. So, if you are someone that's chasing the college dream, being an athlete, the grind doesn't stop once you arrive. The moment I hit campus, that's when the real work starts. That's when everything that you've done to punish and sacrifice yourself to accomplish the goal, the real work starts day one. It's not time to pump the brakes. You haven't arrived. It's just the beginning. And approach it with that mindset. Success is less about talent and more about resilience. What are you built to be? What are you built to become? The time is now. The time is right now. You weren't built to break. You were built to be something greater. Welcome to Season 2 of the BTB Project. I'm your host, Kollman Gearhart. I was the overweight kid, the one counted out, lost 100 pounds, found purpose in the pain, and turned my setbacks into a story worth telling. This podcast isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about identity, discipline, and comebacks. Getting up one more time and becoming who we're always meant to be. If you're ready to go deep, do the work, and live out what you're built to be, you're in the right place. Let's lock in, let's rise, and let's get to work. Welcome back to the BTB Project. I'm your host, Kollman Gearhart, and we're tackling a new series today, a mini series that I think is important from several different perspectives that I've been able to obtain through my life that I want to pass on to you as the listener. And this mini series is titled The College Athletic Journey. There are going to be 4 parts to this series, 1 being athlete, 2 being coach, 3 being parent, 4 being the big picture. I have been very fortunate to be able to experience all 4 facets of the college athlete journey. And for me, becoming a college athlete wasn't just about being able to play tennis. This was about chasing a dream that I worked years for to reach. I want to tackle the dream versus reality for my story. My story is very unique when it comes to becoming a college athlete because I wasn't heavily recruited. Started my journey playing junior varsity doubles my freshman year of high school, to then fast forwarding my sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school playing number 1 singles for my high school. And for the better part of my high school career, I was doing all of this over 300 pounds. I dealt with just a lot of poor eating habits, a lot of poor lifestyle choices, did not grow up in the greatest of households when it came to locking in on my nutrition and things like that. So when you think of a stereotypical college athlete, let alone a Division I athlete, my story does not fit that mold. But the dream that I had growing up was to experience this opportunity of being a collegiate athlete, in a lot of cases, becoming the coach and the mentor of who I am today. I often say on the BTB project, I wanted to be like a coach I never had, and I'm trying to pay forward what I've done as a coach to help other people, but it's all reflective based off of what I didn't have on my own college athletic journey. Now, let me preface, I don't know if my story plays out the way that it did if I did what I did 20 years ago in today's athletic culture, meaning the demands of being a Division One athlete, a college athlete. There's a lot of new rules and regulations out there where for a sport like tennis, there's less roster spots. There's, in some cases, more scholarship opportunities, but there's a lot of guys that are on the tour right now that are doing the college path rather than playing on the tour because they get to train at some of the nicest facilities in the United States. They get to have some pretty good coaches within their college program. They get to be paid with NIL dollars. They get their free room and board, get an education. There's a lot of perks for the best tennis players in the world to come play college tennis. So for a guy like me that walked on and took scholarships, I just want to preface by saying I don't know if that happens today. And later on in the series, when I talk about coaching other athletes or being a parent of my son who is now a college athlete, I'll drill down into more of just kind of the competitive landscape on where things stand to hopefully help you if you're pursuing college tennis or a parent navigating their child pursuing college sports. There's a lot to look at, and I want to help you navigate those types of landscapes. So, what did the dream look like growing up for me? I wanted that scholarship. I wanted the competition. I wanted the glory, all of the things that you think of when you think of high level college athletics. But the reality of that situation for me to obtain what I did was doing all of the things, in all honesty, a lot of people didn't want to do. I remember vividly the early morning workouts. I had to lose 100 pounds before I went to college because I knew that I had to transform my body to coincide with my goal. There was no coaches in the country that were going to take me serious if I'm showing up to their program at 5'11", 325 pounds saying, here I am, I'm going to play college tennis for you. It doesn't work like that. So the sacrifice that I made of training at a tennis academy, eating 1,300 calories a day, taking a gap year between my senior year and enrolling in college so that I could lose the weight, become more mature, work on my mindset, work on my body to go after this goal. The early morning workouts that I did at the academy were brutal, absolutely brutal. And this was in the middle of Arizona. Most of the time during the summer, fall months, where you're averaging 100 degrees a day. A tennis court is typically 20 to 25 degrees hotter than it is outside because tennis courts and asphalt retain heat and radiate heat through the court into your body to make it even hotter. So being able to do the work was something that was a reality that I want people to truly understand, because when they ask me how I did it, how I became the athlete that I was, do I have any regrets or look back and be like, man, would I ever do that again? No, would absolutely do it again because that discomfort that I experienced was something that was necessary for me to become the man that I've become today. I want that to sit with you here for a little bit, being able to understand that it's in our discomfort where growth truly takes place. When I talk more about the coaching side of this series, I've worked with a lot of athletes who want the dream, but don't understand the work that it entails. And since the margins and the opportunities are even slimmer than they are today than when I made my transformation, you got to be locked in. You got to be able to manage your academics with sports. I graduated high school with a 2.7 GPA, not too bad, but I had a 14 on my ACT. So I actually had to retake my ACT before going to college to get my ACT high enough to fall into what they call this athletic window so that my GPA and my transcript grades and the test all coincide for me to be eligible to play tennis under the NCAA. So tapping into the academics, becoming a better student, being able to handle all of the logistics of being a college athlete, being able to travel, being able to manage the class rigor, being able to manage the practice schedule, the strength and conditioning, the all the recovery involved, keeping my body upright. I had a slew of injuries, physical disadvantages that I was trying to manage throughout my college career. And I had to spend a lot of time doing that. A lot of time actively stretching, a lot of time getting my ankles taped because I'd roll my ankles literally every other week. On the nutrition side, I came into college pretty depleted because all I was doing was losing weight, losing weight, losing weight. And then all of a sudden, I had to endure the rigor of the practices, the matches, the physicality of college tennis. So then I had to learn to get my body strong. So incorporating weightlifting, incorporating more calories so that my body can endure the sport and the academics, the travel, the pressure, the consistent evaluation. Every year that I was playing college tennis, I was constantly being evaluated. You have to learn to be okay with that. I believe that everybody that's tuning in, whether you're an athlete or a parent of an athlete, like we all want the scholarship. We all want the accolades of being a college athlete, but very few people understand what it takes to keep at it. I mean, what are the things that you're doing when no one's watching? That's when you get really good. This is where I wish I had a camera on me and documented my story of when I was preparing for college athletics because it was just grueling. The time on the court, sweating so much that I'd have to change my shoes 2 to 3 times a day because it'd sweat through my shirt, through my shorts, drip into my shoes, into my socks. My shoes turned into sponges. It was absolutely miserable. So, shifting from that, really kind of the differentiators of elite athletes. What separates the thrivers from the strugglers based off of what I've seen? The things that come to mind are mental toughness, being able to bounce back after losses. Most times in tennis, you're losing more than you win, so you have to be able to endure that. The discipline side of things, huge differentiator, making sure you're showing up every day, typically showing up early, typically showing up on even bad days after you broke up with a girlfriend, after you had a bad test, being able to show up no matter what. And then coachability. Are you able to take feedback without the ego? When you get to that level of college sports, everybody's good for the most part. But are you too good to still be coached? Because for you to get to the level that you want to get to, You have to be able to be a team player. You have to be able to say, yes, coach. You have to be able to get out of your own way, per se, because your way got you so far, but your coachability will get you to the mountaintop. And then what's your identity beyond sports? This one's big for me because knowing who I was outside of my role as a tennis player was very important identity catalyst for me to understand in order for me to tap into coaching to give back to other people. There's a lot of people that I've seen that become so consumed in what they're doing as an athlete that they literally have nothing else. That if that athleticism got taken away, if that opportunity got taken away, that they would almost be paralyzed mentally, physically, wouldn't know what to do. And you have to be able to, as an elite athlete, make sure that there are avenues outside of what you do for the rest of your life. Remember one example when I think of the differentiators that I had was my ability to tap into discipline when things got tough. I even think back to some of the childhood traumas that I had and being able to survive those moments in my life where in the moment I was like, why is this happening to me? And then flash forward 5, 10 years later, it was surviving those moments that allowed me to go into tryouts in college and compete against scholarship athletes. And when push came to shove, and I had an opportunity to win a match against someone that might have been a better tennis player than me, I could tap into the discipline and literally outwill my opponents because of my ability to withstand the difficult times. I don't wish difficult times upon anyone, but it's the foundational building blocks for us to become who we're built to be. And being able to take that discipline, not just into what I experienced within my team, but taking that into competing against other schools. One of the greatest feats that I had was my sophomore year, being able to go down to Omaha, Nebraska and play a tennis tournament at Creighton University. And it was the Creighton Blue Jay Invitational singles tournament. Very challenging draw, very daunting draw. And I remember playing this tournament unseeded. Nobody knew who I was. And the first match I played, I ended up winning in a third set tiebreaker against someone from Creighton. That led me to another match of which I won in a third set tiebreaker, to then another match that I won in a third set tiebreaker, to then playing in the final. And in the final, I was playing against a really, really good tennis player from the University of Nebraska, Kearney. He was from Spain, grinder, incredible amount of topspin, great two-handed backhand, a lot of pep on his forehand. He could put it anywhere in the court. And I remember just getting my butt absolutely kicked the first set and a half of that match. But ultimately, I tapped into my differentiators, the mental toughness, the discipline, being coachable. And all of a sudden, I find myself chipping my way back into that match. And having the ability to not fizzle out or become burnt out with the sport, but tap into who I was, to then coming all the way back in that match. And I'll never forget having that ball on my racket, serving for the match, 10, 15 ball rally. Opponent hits a ball cross court. I see an opening down the line, rip my forehand down the line. Ball's about an inch and a half inside the single sideline, pasting the baseline deep, goes past my opponent. And there I was, lifting my arms as the Creighton Blue Jay Invitational champion. because of those differentiators, I accomplished one of the greatest accomplishments as a college athlete. So, real quick, what are some of the hidden struggles of college athletes? No one that ever talks about these in some cases, but injuries and the mental toll. I don't know how many matches I played, to be honest, to where I was completely healthy. I was always dealing with something. I mentioned my ankle. I have thoracic scoliosis in my back. I have degenerative disc disease. I have a nervous system that just didn't cooperate. So, a lot of neurological issues and fast twitch issues. But ultimately, being able to recognize those and tapping into my differentiators is what allowed me to overcome those injuries. But there's also aspects like balancing of social life, the relationships, competition, competing against my own teammates that were on scholarship, potentially beating them and taking their scholarship. How do you stay friends moving forward? That was something that was always challenging. The pressure of performance with scholarships. I didn't have the money to go to school. I didn't have the 20 to 26K a year to go to school. Every year that I was competing, I was doing it with my racket. My racket gave me an opportunity to pay for my scholarship. My scholarship literally allowed me to pay for school. I didn't have any other way. Ultimately, you have to ask yourself in these situations as a college athlete, if you're not winning, if things are tough, like who are you? There were stretches where I didn't win very many matches my freshman year. Won some matches my sophomore year, junior, senior year. I had my best seasons because I learned how to embrace losing. And again, keyword learn, so that I could learn from those mistakes to become a winner. And looking at the vision of failure much different than I did when I first started playing. Lastly, a vulnerable personal moment that I want to share was just my last year of college tennis. I remember in order to fulfill my scholarship, I had to play a certain number of matches, and I was one match away from that number to receive my scholarship. And a couple weeks prior, I had hurt my back significantly. I had ruptured 2 discs in my lower back. I had a confirmed MRI of a disc rupture. But then I also found out that I had a tumor that was in my spinal canal that they found during the MRI. And it was pressing against my cord enough to where it was causing issues with my left leg, with my bowels and bladder, and I had to get the tumor taken out. So, in order to fulfill my scholarship, I had to take an epidural. I had to be loaded up on pain meds to try to mitigate the issues with my back. I remember playing that match against South Dakota State, and I couldn't feel anything between the bottom of my belly button to the middle of my quads. And I'm just trying to grind through this match, playing very unorthodox because I had no form or technique with all of the pain meds and the epidural that I had to take. And ultimately, somehow, some way, by the grace of God, I won that match. And I remember collapsing to the ground. And 24 hours later, I'm under the knife to have a tumor taken out of my spinal cord. And to me, that moment of all of the hidden struggles, being able to tap into my differentiators made that college tennis experience truly memorable. So, if you are someone that's chasing the college dream, being an athlete, we'll tap into this more later on in the series, but I want you to take away some key lessons when you're chasing that dream. The grind doesn't stop once you arrive. The moment I hit campus the first day, that's when the real work starts. That's when everything that you've done punish and sacrifice yourself to accomplish the goal, the real work starts. It's not time to pump the brakes. You haven't arrived. It's just the beginning. And approach it with that mindset. Success is less about talent and more about resilience. I started playing tennis when I was 14 years old. I was beating guys that started playing when they were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old because my resilience growing up propelled me to have an edge against talent. So don't be afraid to tap into your resilience. Don't be afraid to remember who you are and who you've become in that moment, because it's not about just talent. It's about who can endure the hardest of hard and still stay standing. And lastly, make sure you have an identity beyond the game you're competing in. College athletics will end. It can either be a catapult for what God has planned for you for the rest of your life, or it could absolutely dismount you, or in some cases, end your life if your identity is completely consumed in it and it just ends in an instant. Find what your identity is, big picture. Have college athletics be part of that journey, not just the journey. Listen, in the next episode of part 2, I'm going to flip the perspective. And I'm going to talk more about what it's like to be a coach of athletes chasing their dream and how to spot who's truly built for the next level and who's not cut out for it. After over 20 years of being a coach and seeing a lot of folks go on to play at the college level, some playing the professional level, I've been able to see a lot. And I hope that that perspective is something that will help your perspective. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to share stories, to share content that you can relate to, that you can learn from, that you can share with others, and that we do this as one BTB community. Can't wait to continue this series. And if this particular episode of part 1, my college journey, if it impacted you, do me a favor and like and subscribe to the BTB Project. Better yet, send this to a family member, friend, colleague, teammate, coach. Let them know what perspective you have as a college athlete. Proud of each and every one of you. And until next time, take care.